Hey everyone, you're listening to the Active Turnkey podcast, a podcast designed for hands-off, passive real estate rental investors. In the Active Turnkey podcast, you'll hear Tom Olson and Jared Stoutmeister discuss all things turnkey rentals with other turnkey providers, service providers, and rental investors. Our goal is to help you reach your financial freedom and whatever comes after that. Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Active Turnkey podcast. I'm your host, Jared Stoutmeister, with the Tom Olson, the owner of Olson Group and Olson Property Services and Good Success,
other companies.
And lots of companies. So yes, we're here with Tom, and we have a very unique podcast today compared to what we normally do. So today we talked a little bit in the previous podcast about the opportunity filter.
Yes. And
so this can be used in many different ways, but today we're going to talk a little bit about it, how it can be used for you and how to make some decisions. And so Tom, tell me right off the bat, where did this opportunity filter come from? Where did this originate?
So really it originated in our mastermind. So
the Good Success
Mastermind? The Good Success Mastermind. Okay. And we, and it's not, I wouldn't say it originated there. People have been using filters to kind of decide where they should go for years. It's not like I came up with the only idea so it's not like this is brand new to thinking. I mean, Rockefeller had his own, filters that he ran his decisions through. And I think everybody should be reading and trying to figure out what those filters are for you. But I think if as an investor, we've come up with a good, 10, 11 key things to consider when you're going to make an investment. And for us, it's not just investments, but I use this even in my own business. I use this in making decisions for our companies. This can be used in a really broad spectrum. Like, for instance, maybe I want to start a new company versus all the companies I have now, or maybe I want to completely get rid of all the companies I have now and start all brand new companies. It can be used across the different companies, and I could rank each company on does it make more money? Is it going to take more of my time? And I think sometimes when we hear about all this education, all we ever hear about is all the money you're going to make.
Sure.
And we're not taking into account all of the other things that really matter. And so I mean, I've got an article here from Einstein, and it talks about Einstein. And Einstein said, how well you define a problem determines how well you solve it. Okay, so the things and I believe the problem here is that most of us are searching for something. We're trying to get somewhere in life, right? So whether it's financial freedom, whether it's to leave a legacy, whatever that is, like that's the problem we're trying to solve, right? And he basically said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem, and then 5 minutes thinking about the solution. And I think so many times we just go right in and we don't really figure out what we want to do, why we want to do it, and we don't really circle the wagons and circle the issue and kind of really, we just buy a house or we just do something instead of really trying to take a step back and be like, hey, what would really be better for me? Like I have investors ask me all the time, I'm new into real estate. What should I do first? And I'm like, well, that person could be an 18-year-old who's never been able to figure out how to hold a job down for more than 6 months at a time. Or it could be a 60-year-old person with $10 million in the bank. Well, guess what? They're starting from completely different starting points. And what's important to that person with $10 million is completely different from what's really important to that 18-year-old. Like for instance, one of the questions on this opportunity filter is this going to take more of my time or my team's time? Okay. Well, I bet you that 18-year-old has time. He probably doesn't have money. But on the flip side, that person with $10 million probably doesn't want to spend a bunch of time.
Right.
But he might have money. So most of us have one of two things. We either have time or we either have money. And those are like very, they're different resources. They're very different resources, but the finite one is time. Now, the other thing is risk. I mean, there's other things, too, to consider whenever you're doing a deal. So we're going to kind of talk today today, I think about the different maybe deals that most people that would listen to this podcast might be thinking about doing or endeavoring. And I'm going to challenge you to use some kind of a filter whenever you are going to make a decision on a new business venture. And honestly, you could even do this on vacations or do this on even like a little piece of your business. We've even done this in our Good Success business on different products. We've actually put a different product in opportunity 1, a different product in opportunity 2, a different product in opportunity 3, and done this. And just so you guys know what we're talking about, this is kind of what it looks like. And actually, I think at the end of the podcast, we're even gonna give everybody an opportunity to be able to get this this opportunity filter. And again, I'm not saying this is the end all say all. If you have your own little opportunity filter, that's probably better. But I think this is a great start. This is a great template almost for somebody to kind of start with and be like, hey, these are some really good questions I should ask myself, especially if I have a lot of options. And I think right now in the market, we're gonna have a lot of different options to go into. So I think taking a step back and thinking about where do we fit in this circle and what can we bring, and asking yourself these 10 questions about an investment, I think is a very wise thing to do before you get into anything.
That's really good. And these kind of questions you can be asking between different deals, possibly, depending on your involvement. So that's kind of what we're doing. So today we're going to use as a sample deal here is the different options you have. So we have Turnkey, which is, we provide turnkey rentals. We have do-it-yourself. Very different type of investment. You can buy a
rental and do it yourself. Absolutely. And go find it and do all that. Absolutely. Yep.
So Turnkey, do-it-yourself, active turnkey, which has a little bit of both. Really, you have some involvement there. You're completely away from the actual asset is lending, where it's different type of investing, and then you have stocks where you're just saying, what, I don't want to get into real estate. I'm going to keep my money in stocks. So these are 5 sample ideas of how you can use this opportunity filter to go through and find out, for your specific situation what works. Because as we have learned, everybody's different. And everybody has different, like you mentioned, everyone's different. Everyone has different goals, different situations. So I think you put that well. So without further ado, should we dive in?
Let's dive in. So you've said turnkey, do it yourself. So these first 3 are all about being or owning a rental property, basically. Right. So let's just consider single family, so we can kind of like put all the perspectives into perspective. And let's just say you have $100,000, right? So you can do turnkey. With that $100,000, you can do active turnkey. You can do it-yourself, which could either be BRRRR or it could be another method. I don't know. It could be, or you could be a lender, right? In with that same money. Yep. And again, if you guys are buying rental properties, I think it's great. But as soon as you learn how to be a lender, I think you'll allocate at least a portion of your investments to lending. And again, like. I'm not trying to tell you to loan to us. You don't have to, but find somebody that you trust and that you really do believe would be somebody that you would connect with. It should be it's part of mine. It should be part of your strategy. If you're in real estate for any period of time, I promise you always gravitate towards that at least a little bit. Or stocks, like you just want to put your money in mutual funds. Maybe you want to own stocks, maybe whatever the case is. But let's just use those 5. And this particular opportunity filter gives you an option to have up to 5. You don't need to have 5. You could just use 2 if you want to. Sure. Or you could just use 3, or you could just use 4. And like I said, we've done this in our business with just different businesses altogether. We've done this in our business with just different products that we could offer, or maybe even just different events that we could offer somebody. And so we can just kind of go through all these questions. And these are questions that I really believe you should ask yourself before you do. You should have a filter. It shouldn't just be, does it make more money? Yes, I'm going to do it. Right. And unfortunately, that's what most people get into. So the first question is, does it make more money?
It's a good place to start.
Right. I mean, is making more money part of the equation?
Sure.
It should be part of the equation,
Absolutely.
Right? So,
Absolutely.
I mean, so yes, that is one of the questions. But unfortunately, too many people stop there. All right?
Right.
So, and then the next one, which is where pretty much, you probably have half the people in the world that's the only thing that they think about. Is it going to make more money or not? Right. And then when you get a little smarter, you get into mastermind groups, you get into these boot camps that you go to, the Community Go-Giver event that's coming up here in our office in September. You go to these groups and you start getting a little smarter, right? Sure. And you start asking yourself, okay, is it going to make more money? Yes. And then the second thing that people always want to talk about is time, right? Because time's finite. You only have so much of it. It's a very important question. Now, how much you weigh that versus how much you weigh money, you probably should rank those as well. Now, we don't have it ranked on this particular opportunity filter, but I have done that before from time to time. There are times in your life where you've got to make more money. So maybe that more money should be ranked and weighted maybe a little higher. Maybe it's not 1/10 of the entire equation, but maybe it is. And you can determine that however you want to do that. For the sake of this podcast and for the sake of what we normally would do, we would just weight them all pretty evenly. All right, so make more money. Does it take more of my time or more of my team's time? For me, if I'm going to start a new business or if I'm going to do anything, like I want to know how much of my team's time is it going to pull away from what we currently have going, because in my opinion, that's your best resource. The best resource is really the people that you have. It's not your house. It's not your rental properties. It's not your loans. It's not your notes. Your best resource that you possibly can have, and the most important resource that I have, in my opinion, is my team. Jared, Cheryl, Chrisney, Becky, my leadership team, and then everybody else that works for me is what I would consider like my most valuable resource. So their time is very important to me. It's not just my time, it's also my team's time. So how much time is this going to take? So if you're going to do a turnkey, Jared, let's just... Why don't you just tell me, like, if you were going to rank this and you're going to be an investor and you're going to do a turnkey, maybe it makes less money. It's possible it may make less money than do it yourself. It might make a little bit less money than active turnkey, right? However, how much of your time is it going to take if you're going to do a do-it-yourselfer?
Great question. This is actually good. My dad and I, we started investing together about 4 years ago. And the first deal we did kind of like active turnkey, where we bought it and then hired a contractor to do the repairs, and we actually still own in cash. But the second deal we bought, it was really interesting. We didn't hire a contractor. It was in decent shape. There's the trap, right? Decent shape. So what we ended up deciding to do, my dad's handy. He was going to do the repairs.
Do-it-yourselfer.
Do-it-yourselfer.
Yes.
So it kind of falls
Weekend
into number
warrior.
2.
Yeah.
And that's you're exactly right. Weekend warrior. And I kind of...
So how long did that take?
It took at least 6 weeks longer than it should have. Than a contractor.
And how much more time did it take of you or your team?
Well, I mean, it took my dad a lot of time because I wasn't in there doing the work, because that's not my construction. You don't want me doing construction, folks. You want me in sales right now. But again, I did bring that up just from working with us. I do understand the idea of time and how inconvenient
and
it is.
And if anybody, and it's actually kind of funny that you bring that up, because if anybody would have had the knowledge to do all that, it would be you guys. Like, you guys would know what to do. You guys would know how to do it. You'd even know what material to use.
Exactly.
And like, even the fact that you had, and I didn't even know who was going to say that in this podcast, but even though he had all that knowledge, it still took him way more time.
Exactly.
Now again, maybe you made more money. Maybe you saved some money. It's okay, and that's a great point. But again, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, you normally either have time or money. And if you have more time than money, maybe it's worth it for you to do the do-it-yourselfers for the first couple that you do, right?
Sure. I would say we may have broke even between the vacancy time and all those different things. Maybe we.
So at the end of the day, it took more time, and you didn't make any more money.
Probably not.
Okay, well that's great to know. So again, versus turnkey, do it yourself, active turnkey, or being a lender. I mean, being a lender is probably the least amount of time of any of those. So if on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably say 10 being the best case scenario, 1 being the worst case scenario. I'd probably say a lender's probably a 9. I'd say turnkey's probably maybe an 8. A do-it-yourselfer is probably a 1 or a 2.
Oh, yeah.
Active turnkey is probably a 3 or a 4. It's going to take more of your time. It's going to take more risk, and it's going to take more. And then stocks, I don't know. It's all going to be you and how you rank that. For me, it's a 0 on money. Maybe it's a whole lot of extra time. I'm not a big stock guy. I had money in stocks in the past, and I always feel I kind of got burned pretty bad and feel like somebody else always makes the money when it comes to stocks. So at the end of the day, I think it's a personal decision. That's why these filters are very personal. I can't tell you what it's going to be for you. The third thing I think is important to ask yourself is the uniqueness in the market. So, for the examples that we have given you, if all the first 4 are all with one provider, well, maybe it doesn't matter as much. The uniqueness of, maybe active turnkey, maybe that's a little unique. I think that method maybe rank a point higher than some of these other products out there. But uniqueness in the market is probably going to be more about the market and what you're going to actually offer when it comes to these. So out of all those, they all 5 of these may rank very similar. So for this example, that's probably not going to be that big of a deal. But in other examples, for instance, like right now, for instance, for me, I own some vacation rentals in this area. Well, guess what? That's pretty unique in this area because there's not very many other people that own vacation rentals in Northwest Indiana. So for me, it's very unique. The fact that I'm flipping Gary, Indiana, that's very unique. My whole business model is very unique because you don't see a lot of other people doing what we're doing in an area like we're doing it in, and making such, and the fact that we want to make an impact, so that to me, that's a big deal. I don't actually have that on here, but I think for some people, that ought to be on here. Is what I'm going to do going to make an impact or not, right?
Absolutely.
So uniqueness in the market, I think, is something very important when especially when you're talking about businesses and different business models. The next one, have lower taxes, and in kind of in parentheses, we have long term here. So really it's kind of weird, but if you're going to compare, a turnkey versus a lender, you're actually going to pay more taxes as a lender. It may take a whole lot less time. It may take a lot less risk. But you're actually going to pay more taxes because it is passive income. You're going to make income right now. It's INT income, and unless you're investing with your IRA. So if you're invested with a self-directed Roth IRA or a Roth component to an IRA, obviously that might be lower. So that again, it's something that should come into play, right?
Absolutely.
And the reason why we came up with this in our mastermind because we have so many different people that do different things. We have lenders, we've got fix and flippers, we got people that have rental portfolios. We've had people that do vacation rentals. We've had people that do storage. We've had people that do student housing. All those different. We have somebody who owns a hotel. All those different sectors are great different sectors, but they all come with different tax burdens and different tax things. So the next one, which I think is also very important, and I do like. And it's something that I think most businesses should have, but they don't have enough of, and that's reoccurring revenue. And so does it include reoccurring revenue? That's why I like rentals so much. I love rentals because the house itself, the value it really brings is the fact that it has the long-term customer. In business, you kind of learn what's the long-term value of a customer, right?
Absolutely.
Well, the long-term value of the customer is you're going to have maybe many different customers that are going to rent that house over and over and over and over again. And for a 30-year picture, it could be massive. We have a guy that is renting one of our properties right now, and he's been in there for 20 years. He probably could have paid for the entire building that he's in right now. But he's been renting for 20 years. He pays $1,400 a month right now for rent. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, why wouldn't this guy go buy a house? But hey, at the end of the day, it's been great for us.
Yeah.
Well,
one thing you can kind of go into there is from a rental perspective, you hear about the 2% increase every year for rent. So we have my first rental. I mentioned I bought cash with my dad, and we fixed it up. So we've had one tenant in there the whole time, and we've never raised the rent.
Why not?
Because the guy pays on time every time. And I did bring it up this last time to raise the rent, and he was not happy. Which tenants aren't generally happy when you raise the rent, right? No one likes an addition. However, I started counting the cost of. Hey, if at the end of the next lease, if we were to raise it or what have you, if we were to how much would it cost me to lose a tenant in this particular area? Because this is probably a D+ area in Gary. To have a vacancy, how quickly could I find a tenant and also have a tenant that's like this one who pays every day, every month on the first, every time? And so to me, I thought the very little increase of 2% increase from my rent number there was not as worth as much as having this tenant in there who's happy with the place.
Well, so it sounds like you probably did some kind of an opportunity filter when you made that decision. So it wasn't just all about how much more money am I going to make, but also some of these other things that you might have to consider. How much more time is this going to take? Ooh, well, that's that. Now we're kind of talking here. So. So let's get on to the next one, Jared. We contain more control of business or legal risk. And I think, again, risk is something that most investors don't pay enough attention to. And I'm going to tell you, you get into a couple lawsuits and you start really rethinking this, and it doesn't matter who you are. All the veteran investors out there that have been investing for more than probably 5 or 10 years have had some kind of lawsuit. It's going to happen. And a good friend of mine says, you never know when crazy is going to show up. And, at the end, why we live in this litigious society, I don't understand it, but it is something that you should consider. And it could just be slip and falls. It could just be other things that, accidents happen, fires happen. Yeah. And yes, there are ways to minimize risk with insurance and making sure that properties are safe and well maintained and well kept. There are things you can do, absolutely, but it ought to be part of the equation.
Sure.
So the next one, I believe, and I think is something, again, every one of these may not be completely weighted for your situation equally, but for sake of this podcast, we're just going to weight them equally. The next one is have larger scale. I will never forget when there was a guy that came to my podcast. I mean, not my podcast, my mastermind. It was our very first mastermind, and this was 3 or 3.5 years ago. And I remember him talking about saving money on paint. And he was going around to all of the thrift stores and all of the outdoor flea markets and trying to find used paint or trying to find leftover paint from whatever, and I'm like, and I stopped him in the middle of that, and he thought he was slaying it. He was just like, I'm only paying $5 a gallon for paint, and I mean, the only thing he possibly could have been thinking about was how much money was that going to cost him. It's the only thing he could possibly be thinking about. He didn't think about time. He didn't think about scale. I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, paint costs $20 a gallon. Go to the paint store, get an account. How much time is how much is your time worth to you is what I asked him. I'm like, if you're going to spend an entire day, that's 8 hours of your life. Are you trying to tell me, and like, you're going to save $80 by spending it? It's $10 an hour. What are you doing? That's not scalable. That's the worst thing you could possibly do. And that's just something really small and maybe insignificant to most people that probably listen to this podcast. But like scalability in a business, scalability in a model, I don't really want to do something anymore. I'm getting to the point, at least in my life, where I don't want to do something unless I can do it again, unless I can repeat it. I don't want to do a deal one time. There's a lot of these gurus out there that are teaching how to have all these tools in your toolbox, so you can have 60 different ways to do a deal. But I'm like, it's never scalable. Right. It's never a way that I can't train that. I can't create a model. I can't create a box that I can do over and over and over again. And to me, it's not really worth it. Right. To do something one time and be like, okay, I did it. So what? What are you gonna do now? You got to learn how to do it all over again.
That's assuming that all those 60 items aren't unique. Meaning that we know there is no deal that's the same. They're all different. So
to a certain
you're
degree,
assuming that every one of those options are going to work according to the way it did that one time. As you're comparing them, you know what I mean? Yep. So yeah, that's very interesting.
So again, is this scalable? How and I mean, even for us, this is part of the reason why we're considering doing new build construction, even for rentals right now, build to rent, because I know it's much more scalable, and I know that once the process is in place, it will have a lot less risk on what are we going to open up when we open up a wall or a door or a roof. Who knows, what happens. So does it have a larger scale? And I think the next one is, some people, I've heard this before in different and I've heard almost every one of these to a certain degree from different people. Right. An attorney is going to talk about risk, right? So to him, that might be the most important thing. But in real estate investment, we always think, taxes, how much money is this going to cost me in taxes versus legal risk? Those are kind of competing most of the time. And sometimes as investors, we gotta be willing to take some risk and then also maybe pay some in taxes, just to kind of weigh those two out. But this next one I think is important. So does it seem more enjoyable? Do you really want to get into this? Is this going to be a grinder outer? Is this going to be a project or a property or it's just going to be constantly a problem that you're not going to enjoy? Or is this going to be something that you really do enjoy? For me, this might sound hilarious to people out there, and Jared might even get a chuckle about it because I'm not sure he knows this about me or not. But, for me, I actually enjoy going to the store and grocery shopping. So most of the grocery shopping in my house, I either do or my wife Instacarts. And my wife doesn't really care to shop to shop for groceries. She loves shopping for clothes. I was like, okay. She loves going to the thrift stores. She loves going to Macy's. She loves going to the malls. She loves all that, but she doesn't really like grocery shopping. So I'm like, I don't care. I'll go, no problem. And it's kind of weird. But I do it sometimes. Does it make me money? No. Could I probably spend my time doing something else that's more productive? Maybe, yaps. But guess what? I like it. So, however, on the flip side, there are guys that like to mow their own lawn. Right? Mm-hmm. I am not one of them. Sure. I don't even own a lawnmower except for my businesses. My businesses, I guess, own lawnmowers, right? In that case, but yes. I do not mow my own lawn. I do not. But there are other guys, I like it. Mm-hmm. I sit on the tractor and I mow my lawn for 2 hours every Saturday. And I'm like, more power to you. That's awesome. But me, I don't like it. I don't change my own oil. Mm-hmm. And again, a lot of it's because a lot of these reasons. Sure. But I don't like that kind of stuff. So I think it should be part of the equation. Now, again, at different times of your life, if you're older, this might be way more important to you. Mm-hmm. If you're younger, it's like, you know what? Maybe you need to grit it out. Maybe it doesn't matter if you like it or not. You need to figure out how to, be diligent and make it happen. Mm-hmm. I'm not Disney World that says follow your dream and you'll just reach it and follow your heart. And I think it's a bunch of baloney. But I do believe that it should be part of the equation. It should, and I think some of that's God given. God gives us desires and God gives us things that we like to do, and it should be part of the equation. It shouldn't be the whole equation. Absolutely. And then we just got a couple more here. And actually, you know what? I've actually redone this opportunity filter since the one you got here, so you don't have the completed one. Mm-hmm. But so I'm going to change this last one that you have here. But have more leverage. And I think that that's a very key thing. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I believe real estate is so awesome. If you're owning a rental property and with like turnkey rentals, like active turnkey, you don't have the leverage up front, but you have actually more leverage on the back end because you might be able to get more of your money back than if you bought turnkey up front, right? That's part of the reasons why active turnkey is a great product. But I also know why turnkey is also very important because that's probably a little bit more scalable and it probably takes a little bit less time and it takes less risk, so you've got to weigh those two different options. But does it have more leverage of time, number one? So I think the leverage of time is like, what can I add to the equation? What part of this do I own or how can I help? In any of these different opportunities, how can I help in turnkey, or how can I help in do it yourself, or how can I help in and maybe for do it yourself, or you might have a 10 there if you're going to be if you're a contractor and you know how to do it, maybe you can add to that equation. But if you're an engineer, you're probably not, or if you're a dentist, you're probably not going to add much to that equation. Active turnkey, being a lender, you can maybe you have a network that you can add to this. Stocks. Probably not so much. You probably can't have a lot of leverage there with time when it comes to stuff. Or you are buying other companies, so maybe if you think of it that way, that could be the way. Money. I love real estate because you can leverage money. And leverage in that instance could be, bank financing, leveraging long-term 30-year notes at ridiculously low rates right now. I mean, I'm seeing investors get 2.9, 3.9 Fannie Mae loans. It's really ridiculous. I think we got an investor right now doing a portfolio even that's in the threes. To me, like if you can get 30-year money at 3%, that's like you are literally taking money from the future and putting it in your pocket today because what that asset's going to be worth down the road versus what the rents are going to be. I mean, everything really like long-term money at really cheap rates is a massive advantage. And then also, can you leverage energy? The energy that you're going to put into something, is it going to be something that you can leverage maybe for the future or leverage for something else to be able to get out of it? Again, on this one, it said something different, and I changed this because it kind of had legal risk in here twice. But really, I've replaced this with our opportunity filter that we have now, that we use now, with what is really the supply and the demand in the market. And what I think is interesting is right now, rental demand is skyrocketing. Yeah, it is going through the roof. And this is the reason. The reason why is because affordable housing, we are in a crisis mode right now. even though we've gone through a pandemic, and even though, for some of us, we're still in the pandemic, and even though, and I mean, the knife is still coming down on what's going to happen with this pandemic right now. We don't really know. Right. We can't see the future. We don't really know what's really going to happen here. But what I can tell you is the demand for rentals has already skyrocketed. It's already booming. Mm-hmm. It's already going up. Especially single-family rentals. So supply and demand is a big deal. The other thing that's a big deal right now is lending. Like the lending market's kind of froze now. They've already started to come back, and then we're already seeing positive things in that. But the big lenders, the big private lending companies, have made their box like almost not as advantageous anymore. So if you're a hard money lender, or even if you can have money out for a long period of time, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, I believe you can make pretty decent money. Even if you were to be willing to do 30-year notes right now, you could probably make 8-9%. It's pretty, and amortize, which is actually better than just simple interest. If you're the actual lender on that. So I think it's an opportunity that people that are listening to this ought to consider being a lender. Again, you've got to make sure you trust it. We're going to do a podcast in the future, probably private borrowers versus private lenders, and I'm excited about doing something about that. Because I do think that borrowers need to act a certain way, and I also think lenders should act a certain way, and there ought to be a mutual benefit to both people working with that. But I do believe that right going into the next couple of years, lending is going to be a massive opportunity for people, especially in the single-family realm. All of these, I think, turnkey, active turnkey, do it yourself. If you've got the time, to be able to invest in it. Lending, when it comes to real estate, all of those, and even investing into hedge funds, and even investing into things that maybe you didn't see before. As long as those operators are good and honest and they have integrity and they're going to stand behind their product and do the best they possibly can and communicate and do you right. So that would be the last one that I would put on here is what is the supply and demand in the market? And right now, for single-family rentals, it is berserk. We don't even have a property right now to be. I had somebody yesterday reach out to me and say, "Hey, I need a rental property. I need it as fast as possible. What do you guys have?" I asked my property manager. We don't have anything available. They're all rented. Where this happens every time. It's funny because we say this and then people don't listen to us, and then they wonder why they don't get what we say that they could have gotten. But we are almost at 100% occupancy right now, and the only ones that I would say are not occupant are maybe like a turnover or something that's just about ready to be marketed to be rented. But honestly, like the rent demand is crazy. There will be foreclosures that are going to happen. Those people will need a place to live. And rents have actually already gone up. So literally in the last 2 or 3 months, me and Becky, my wife, yesterday looked at what else was available. We went through all the different available properties in this area, Northwest Indiana. It was interesting to see like all the other property managers haven't rented theirs, but we have. I don't understand that, but not trying to poke at anyone or anybody, but for us, like they're all rented. I don't know if they just don't have good follow-up process, or if maybe their houses aren't as well kept as ours. I'm not 100% sure about that, or maybe their marketing is just not as good. I don't know. But either way, there's a lot of properties that were, I should say a lot. There was probably less than normal that is normally on that rent lease site that I went to go look at. But there was quite a few on there. I promise you, but the rents have already gone up. I've already seen almost like in the last 3 months, like a $50 bump and everywhere across the board. Maryville, Gary, Hammond, Griffith, even like Michigan City. I'm seeing I was like, wow. There was a house in Maryville, 3-2, rented for $1,500 a month. And I was like, wow. I can remember $1,250 when we thought that was high. That's pretty good. And right now we're like at $1,350, $1,395 maybe in Maryville. And I'm seeing a property that I don't think is any better than what we would rent for $1,350 or $1,395 being marketed for $1,500. So again, when demand happens,
sure.
And right now the supply, even in single family to purchase, I heard a report last week that said there's 200 people right now that need a house to buy in the affordable realm, under $200,000. So there's 200,000 people in the United States that need a house. So the supply is 200,000 short.
Interesting.
Today. So, I think I'm invested in real estate. You don't have to invest in real estate, but if you haven't, I would tell you to just consider it and know your stuff, and know what you're getting into. And that's why I believe that you're listening to podcasts. And I know that the people that are listening are in the top 5% of all people in the world because they're willing to invest in their self and invest in their future. And I think that you'll be blessed for it. But this opportunity filter is something that I really believe in. We use here as well. I think for us, we also, like for instance, when we hire somebody, one of our filters for when we hire is our core values. Like it's very important to us. If you don't fit these core values, we hire, fire, and reward based on those core values. And that should be another filter as well that kind of, maybe we add that to this opportunity filter. Does this opportunity fit our core values? And I think a lot of other people should be thinking about different things that you create. And if you don't use our opportunity filter, that's fine. But if you'd like to just see ours, we'd love to be able to send it to you guys. So I think Jared's going to tell us about how we can. How they can get this.
Absolutely. You can just see the value in something like this because in many cases people may not know to be asking these questions.
Exactly.
And so just to get at least a starting point is huge. And when you're making a decision, you may not be realizing you're putting so much emphasis on one of these areas over another when it shouldn't be. So definitely good information. So yes, we are going to be given opportunity for everybody to get a copy of this. So in 2 weeks, we're going to send this out to our list, to our actual list. So if you'd like to be on our list, you can email me at jared@buyolsongroup.com, or you can go to our website and you can check us out there. And the
website is buyolsongroup.com, right?
That's right, buyolsongroup.com.
BUY, like you're going to buy a house, because everyone out there that wants to buy houses, right? Well, if it's from us, that's fine. If it's from somebody else, but you're going to buy houses, so go to BUY Olson Group, it's OLSON group.com, and give us your information. You can get on Jared's list, and then in the 2 weeks, we're going to be sending this out to our entire list. If for some reason you watch this podcast after that goes out,
right,
then just like Jared said, just email him at jared@buyolsongroup.com, and he'll be able to get you on his list, and then also maybe and also get send you a copy of this opportunity filter that we've created for us that we use, and we're trying to share it with our network.
And don't forget, if you're just joining us for the first time or you're looking to invest, we do build rental portfolios for investors. So we are selling them like gangbusters. We have over 20 pending sales right now currently, but we still have more deals coming. And so if you're looking to invest, you're looking for a new market, or you're looking to get started, we definitely like to help you. You can reach us same website, buyolsongroup.com, or Jared. You reach me at jared@buyolsongroup.com, and we'd love to be able to service you and help you as you build your portfolio. So Active Turnkey,
the best way to buy rentals.
Thanks, guys. Olson Group Network makes no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast should not be considered professional advice. Unless specifically stated otherwise, Olson Group Network does not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast, and information from this podcast should not be referenced in any way to imply such approval or endorsement. Any third-party materials or content of any third-party site referenced in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions, standards, or policies of Olson Group Network. Olson Group Network assumes no responsibility or liability for the accuracy or completeness of the content contained in third-party materials or on third-party sites referenced in this podcast, or the compliance with the applicable laws of such materials and/or links referenced herein.